Kalen Williamson. Today we are going to be going over Netflix's new mystery, The Residence. I had added the title and I don't know where it went, but okay. But we both watched it, so we have ideas. And if you don't know, it's just a new mystery by Shonda Rhimes that's on Netflix. And I think it dropped like a week ago, maybe two. And so it's a eight or nine episode murder mystery. I think it's 8 episodes. But be warned, the denouement episode is an hour and a half long. Just so you know. With streaming, it's very inconsistent. It's like 52 minutes, an hour and 7, then an hour and a half. But
Yeah, and so
that
this week we have been cursed. Someone just ding dong ditched my door and upset my dog, and I'm the only one here to answer the doorbell. So I was expecting a package or something, so I don't know. All right, I'm here. Did you?
Yeah, I just told them what we were going to talk about. It's Netflix's new series by Shonda Rhimes. That's what I said. That's all you missed. So yeah,
Still in the top 10 as of yesterday. So, like, if you haven't seen it, go watch it.
And yeah, so Ansley Ash writes mysteries. I'm writing my first mystery novella this month. So that's why we're interested in going over mysteries for our author interviews in the next month or so. And we have a month prior. Ansley has dogs.
And my dogs. Somebody was back at my door. That's when the dogs are barking.
Your house is too busy.
I never liked it. And like for the last 2 days, guys, we've been trying to go live and like we can't get it to work. This has just been cursed. But The Residence as a TV show is not cursed. So, all right, you have a list of things that we were like, welcome to lunch with Kalen and Ansley, right?
So Ansley was going to tell you a little bit about the titles of each episode. So go ahead and do that, and then we're going to talk about the mystery.
Okay. So I think we agreed that we're not technically doing any spoilers here, but things we do not consider spoilers are things that appear in the preview. We're going to talk a little bit about the titles because you can click on them and they're all named out, and anything that happens in the first episode. So those we don't deem as spoilers. Okay. So first things is that The Residence is a really, really smart mystery. This guy, Davies, the creator, writer of this show, clearly loves a mystery um, because every single episode is either named for a book, a story, or a movie that is a mystery, with the exception of the first one, which is the title of the first episode is The Fall of the House of Usher, which is a very famous short story by Edgar Allan Poe, if you don't know. And Edgar Allan Poe is considered the father of modern mystery. And because he's the father of modern mystery, that's why they used one of his, but The Fall of the House of Usher is not a mystery story. His mystery stories are their protagonist is Auguste Dupin, and he has 3 of them. And these were just his idea was to talk about like what kind of wild conclusions could you come to if you like sat there and rationally thought it out. So that is where Edgar Allan Poe started. But so that's why they did that. And then the next episode is Dial M for Murder, which is a famous Alfred Hitchcock movie. But every single one of them, they get more obscure as it goes along. So yeah, so it's so funny. And all right, we said no spoilers, but later on they realized that none of them was an Agatha Christie. So there is an Agatha Christie book that someone is reading in one of the later episodes. But I won't tell you which book, but just watch for it. It makes a cameo because they want to make sure they touched all their bases.
Ansley would notice. I didn't. I liked all the facts. So there were a bunch of fun facts about presidents in there and birds, which I was like, that's a lot of research as a writer to be like, what was happening at the White House with all these different presidents. And I won't spoil them for you, but there was a jelly bean factoid in there that I found amusing. And
all right, I guess
others.
This person isn't going to go away. I'll be right back.
Okay. And a few others. So I liked the factoids aspect of it a lot. Um, because to do that amount of research is a lot of work, and, like, they're so goofy, they're so funny, and you're just like, "Why would that be true?" So I love that. Since Ansley isn't here, I'm just gonna dive into my favorite character, which was Didier, the dessert chef. There's more than one chef. I like the dessert chef. He's crazy. Just I like the entire thing is very camp, a little bit hokey, and I like that. I'm like a huge fan of campy things, which if you've read some of my writing, well, not so much in Tumultuous 20s, but my upcoming writing is a little hokey. So for one of my mysteries, I named the character Stetson, and he literally has straw in his mouth. He's so stereotypical Southern, but it's meant to be that way. It's a really fun thing about mystery, how dramatic it is. And so you can kind of go to those extremes because it's meant to be a little bit funny. So this does it very well with an entire cast of characters, two chefs, an endless amount of employees working at the White House. It is not a political show at all. It's just the residents of the White House and like how the president lives in the White House. And so the murder happens at one of their, I think it was like a ball or no, the dinner. It happened at one of
It
their
does
big
a
grand
steak dinner.
dinners with a bunch of Australians there and Kylie Minogue, and they mention Hugh Jackman, but he's not in it. And so I think
They
that is
definitely have they definitely have permission to use his name, and it's so funny.
right.
I wonder, I it's so prevalent, and he's in there so much. And they even show them. This is my favorite thing is they show them interviewing Hugh Jackman, but it's just like eyes and hair, and like there's a artist representing his face for who he is because they obviously couldn't get Hugh Jackman for just that cameo, and they wondered if like they had him on the line to do it and then his schedule fell apart at the last minute. Okay, so that was all this adventure. That was the mail carrier apparently shows up in the middle of whatever. It's I have a child who has a birthday today. It was a birthday package. I had to get it. So normally it's not like this. Normally I have like people in my house to handle the dogs, to handle the packages. It's not me all by myself, but I am all by myself today. So you would think my house would be blessedly quiet to live stream. And it's just not.
um,
Okay, we're done.
yeah, it's a full cast of characters. There are a lot. I think Ansley, do you think there are at least like 20 characters in this? And we talked about it because I said I love it as a show. I cannot remember every single person's name in the show at all, but visually you can see them. So I talked about how campy it was because they're so dramatic. You remember what they look like, and you're like, oh, this crazy one. And so that's fun. But I said in a book, it'd be too much for me. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's at least 20 people running around this White
So
House.
yeah, I would say like main character. Yeah, main character. Well, yeah, between main characters and suspects, at least 20, but we're probably going like this is a cast of like dozens and dozens and dozens. I would say there's probably well over 50 characters that they're just going to run past you like 24/7 that you're just going to have to like kind of keep track of. And you have to, I personally benefited from watching it a second time. And I saw kind of how like the clues were planted. But yes, there are at least 10 solid suspects that 10 like really 10 really solid suspects and 5 or 6 maybe they did it maybe they didn't do it kind of suspects. So yeah, so it's really interesting. In that first episode we don't talk to
Yeah.
everybody, but they do show everybody.
And I won't give it away, but there is someone spying on this entire event. So it's kind of fun, like the surprises you find along the way. Because you wouldn't
I know.
expect anyone to be spying on the White House to be like, I saw that. You
I know.
cannot escape nosy people in your life.
Not even at the White House. No, 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 no. So yes. So I think it's really fun. It's very much I don't so since I wasn't here, I don't know what Kalen said, but it is very much West Wing meets Clue. It's like as campy as Clue. and it has all the atmosphere and all of the it's done with a campy twist, but it's all of the like political drama of the West Wing without there being politics in it. And I was like, how are you going to do this? But they did it fantabulously well because they don't actually talk about anything. Um,
It
okay,
had a
so
really good rhythm. Like, I liked the rhythm of how they spoke. You can tell they did that on purpose to kind of keep you engaged through the dialogue, kind of how they did when we had the talkies back in the day. Not quite that fast, but it is an homage to back then, I feel. I don't
I would
actually
agree. I
know.
would agree because some characters talked really, really like everybody talked really, really fast. They're just like putting their
I love that. I love it. It kept me engaged because, like, yes, there's the mystery, but because it's campy, because it's fun, it's not a tense thriller. So I kind of liked that rhythm to keep me engaged in the show. And we are also going to talk about, so we talked about like how it set up all these different characters. I think it's important to point that out because I'm a person, you could have like three characters, maybe I'll try to figure out who the murderer is, but a lot of times I let Barnaby and Mrs. Fletcher take me on their grand whatever as I watch the show and figure it out, right? But Ansley always likes to figure it out as she reads. And now I realize as I was watching this why I don't like to try to figure out who the murderer is. Because they bring up random clues. They're like, oh, I forgot this. Oh, I questioned this person. Oh, what about that? I'm like, I'll just wait for the denouement. But this one, I don't think you really had a choice. Like, there was just too much going on to have a clear idea.
it was I thought it was really easy to get lost. And then I was so sucked into the show. I was like really, really tired by episode 3. So like if I were watching that, so if it were this is the difference between a Netflix show and what Ansley grew up with show that, was an hour every single week. I think if I'd had a week to digest what the clues that I had seen the previous week, I probably would have tried to put it together a little bit more, but I will agree, like it was really, really, and then I thought some of the aspects of this were really convoluted. So when I got to the denouement, I thought I have definitely seen. There's a little bit of an homage to Agatha Christie, like because sometimes just the wrap up is just clearly craziness, right? And I feel like this this had to have been written one of two, like a couple of ways, right? They had a set of they knew who the killer was going to be, or I think maybe they didn't know who the killer was going to be. I think they set it up and they wrote it, and someone was going to be the killer, and they had a um a setup for like how that makes sense. And then they decided at the last minute, I think maybe to change who the killer was. And then they took all of those red herrings and they flipped it on its head, right? There were a lot of clues. And then there were just stupid things that happened that just seemed really reality stretched for me. And so, like, I would not, as a puzzle mystery, so like, they definitely had this list of things. Like, because the first thing they said was, okay, we have this famous investigator, consulting detective, which
Yeah.
I have never heard of in my
Cordelia.
entire life. Yeah, Cordelia Cup. So yeah, and that goes back to our literary references, right? Because Cordelia is the name of Anne of Green Gables' imaginary best friend. Like if she was gonna
Yeah.
have a best friend, she was gonna name her
Right,
Cordelia.
but Sherlock Holmes was a consulting detective on
That was
Sherlock.
something that was made up because police detectives were barely a thing
Right,
when he
but
was writing.
um, well, I meant elementary, like the latest one. Yeah,
But
the latest one.
that stays in the canon of Sherlock Holmes, which is it's just something that Arthur Conan Doyle made up, and I have no evidence that this has ever been a thing, like ever.
It's a thing now. It's a literary thing. So I told them Didier was my favorite character. Who was your favorite character? He was just a dramatic chef that I
Oh,
enjoyed.
Didier was Bronson Pinchot is such a good actor, so I really enjoyed him in that role. I like objectionable characters, so I thought the president's brother with Trip, I think his name is, or
Yes.
whatever, and Jason Lee is so good. And my husband is watching it. So the second time I was refreshing it because it's been 2 weeks since I'd watched it, and I wanted like fresh memories for it. And I'm watching it this weekend with my husband, and my husband is all like, so who is it that's playing Jason Lee, playing Ryan Reynolds, trying to be Jason Lee in this thing? And I was like, it's Jason Lee. So I have loved a lot of just the objectionable stuff that Jason Lee has done. Although I didn't mind him in My Name Is Earl. I thought he was rather
Oh
charming
yeah.
in that, but I do, but like he has just played some just thoroughly nasty characters, and I just thought this was delicious. The President's Screw Up Brother, yes, yes, I loved him, and I also loved Jane Curtin as the mother-in-law who hates
Yes.
and I love the bit where they were like, and my son's husband, and they go, "You mean the president?" And then she like almost vomits, and she's like gag reflex, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, how many mother-in-laws out there are still like that to this day?" It's like, yeah, that was just hilarious. Your mother-in-law? Yeah. Welcome to my child live stream. The kid who has the birthday. Yeah.
Just rat out your family on the
I
live
mean,
stream.
if they're gonna like giggle and be here loud enough to talk about it, they're gonna get introduced on the live stream. I don't mind. Yeah. So disembodied voice is my oldest child Andromeda. Um, yeah, so I definitely like Trip, and I definitely like the mother-in-law, Nan, who's drunk all the time. And I
Mhm.
thought Sheila was really fun. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. She doesn't quite know the difference between working and gabbing with famous guests. She's confused. She also
She's
has
beautiful.
that she's part of the wait staff and she believes a little bit for her and a little bit for you, a little bit for everybody. So she's definitely a character. I think I just loved her from Waffle House to White House trajectory.
There's like, yeah, sadly I see you working at a Waffle House. Like, yeah, this character, I totally buy it. And then as it went on, and as you start putting it together, I really kind of then felt a bond for AB Winters, and like how hard his job was and how diligent he was at it. It was definitely understated, and everybody was angry with him. Like this whole state dinner, and all he's trying to do is pull it
Well,
off. And I was like, yeah. So it was hilarious.
so what made this good that I didn't really think about for my own, I have too many honest characters in my mystery. So in Finding Brody, because like I said earlier, I'm writing my first mystery novella this month. And so I'm writing it. Too many of my characters are honest. You get introduced to this show, every single person is lying. And the first lie, the person who was murdered was AB Winters. And they're like, we all love him. No one ever fought with him ever. Just in all the years that we worked here, we got along 100% of the time. That is the first lie that every single person does.
No, I loved him, right? And they all hated him for their own various reasons. And they were like, and at the end of the day, everybody's reason for hating AB was completely and thoroughly petty. Like they were just caught up in their own pettiness. They had lost a vision of what it was to be in the White House. There are a couple of, maybe not everyone, because there are definitely characters that loved him who are not suspects. Like once you figure out they're not suspects, they genuinely loved AB, and so like they are clearly the moral center because they shared his vision, of the White House. So like that was a lot of fun to watch them. But yes, everybody else was like totally
Well,
and completely
and as
lying.
it unfolds, they don't start telling the truth any better. They all tell like an inkling of the truth 1 centimeter at a time. Like, here's a little bit of truth, here's a little bit of truth. And then they get caught lying because they're like, none of these stories remotely match. What are you talking about? So then they get caught and they're like, well, actually, did I say I didn't leave the room? I meant like I sort of left the room, but it doesn't even count as leaving the room, really.
My favorite is the chef who just straight up lies about like not being outside when we've already heard from the Australian what they were doing out there. That is hilarious. Yeah, so the cook is a little bit of a character, but I did not enjoy her as much as I enjoyed Sheila. Sheila, I thought, was a much better character.
Well, so I like Didier because I understood his anger as the dessert chef, where he's like, hey, whereas the cook was just hostile 24/7. And you're like, girl, calm down. Are you ever just not hostile? And the answer is no, she's never not hostile.
It's like, you're here because the president and his husband like you. Like, yes, girl, you're here. Like the rest of these people, except for the pastry chef, all report to you, and you're here. And you could be a little less chip on the shoulder. I don't know. I guess she's supposed to be like the female Gordon Ramsay or something. I don't know what that was all
Mm.
about. But I did
Well,
not
she's a
find
character though. She's not
she is
forgettable.
definitely a character. She is I don't know. I mean, I felt like I was supposed to feel this bond for her and I didn't. But I did feel the bond
Mm.
for Didier because, he gave up something that was really, really prestigious to come to the White House and then he turned it into his own. And then the new people come in and they're all like, no, we can't have your gingerbread house. We're going to have ice instead. And you're like, oh my gosh, like this is totally what some people in America believe. That's crazy, man.
And I don't think that the steak needed to be on fire, but that's just my opinion. I don't have Wagyu in my house. So like maybe it does need to be on fire at the table, but she was very dramatic about that. Whereas I
Well,
just,
I mean, what was the thing? The something something flambe, the dessert that Didier wanted. They both wanted
yeah,
fire.
I think, was it like Bananas Foster or no?
Yeah, bananas Foster, which was going to be on fire. Yeah, like just
Yeah, and
like
he's like, "No fire." I have to agree with AB Winters. No fire. These people can barely handle talking. No fire for any of you. But the pettiness where they just didn't serve any food at all, and you're like, "What kind of cook is this?" They're just like, "It's a dinner with no dinner," and then they're holding up the plates like, "Where's the?"
can you imagine like being that bitch? I'm like, I would have fired you on the spot. I would have been like, I hired you to be and they're like, oh well, if I'm gonna be like Patty, like just like
Right,
why is no death?
iconic moment there. So not too much of a spoiler, but what was your favorite moment? And then I'll tell you one of the things that made me laugh the most.
So my favorite moment is basically the opening shot, right, where we meet the assistant steward. She is not properly dressed for the evening.
Oh,
She thinks that she is about to inherit AB Winter's spot, and it's made perfectly clear to her that he is not ready to let his job go. And she is having a conversation with her bestie butler boy, and he's like, "Are you drinking? Are you drinking in the blue room?" He is totally scandalized because apparently she's not this person. He's like, don't do something you're going to regret. And then she does it anyway. And she's like, too late. I love that because she could not be more screwed because she basically shows up with alcohol in her breath and her boss is dead. Like 5 seconds later, it's like, yeah.
that is pretty funny. So I liked, and this is not from the first episode, but it's also not a spoiler. It doesn't have anything to do with it. I like about halfway through, I think, the series. So because I do, I love food. I love the chef as far as like having a chef in the story and Didier, which is the dessert chef. And so they're unable to solve the mystery at some point. You end up back in the kitchen and the president has like left, the dinner is over, and someone else is in charge. They gave them Pinterest boards to be like, can you make a meal based off of this inspiration? And Didier got rocks and he was like, this is not food. I don't know what you want me to do with rocks. Like this is not food. What are you doing? And that made me I was like, what is that? It's the first time I agreed with them. Like, does the food need to be on fire? No, but it probably should not be rock inspired. I don't even think I want rock inspired food myself. That's me. And so I was like, that's really funny. Cause I also think that's something one of the characters in the show absolutely would do is be like, it's a Pinterest, but with like no food, but like be inspired. Like, no. So that was one of my favorite.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, and so like, it's hilarious, and I love how the first husband, so I loved how like they did the gay couple, but instead of that being like any part of a plot line, it's just kind of there in the background. And the first husband is all like, and he's like, I don't know, I don't have opinions. I'm just married to the guy who has opinions, right? And he's like, no, and like he shows up, he has one opinion, and like one opinion the entire. The entire show, the entire 8 episodes, he has
So
one opinion, and everybody keeps trying to talk him out of that opinion, and they're like, "No, no, you can't have that opinion." And he's like, "No, I have the one opinion." It's like the most random thing you could be opinionated about.
I will say the last thing I really loved, and we talked about it before, was if you ask Cordelia Cup, Detective Cup, you're like, who's your suspect? She always says, I don't know. There's no suspect. I don't have a suspect. I have thoughts, but I don't. What's suspect? And I
Thought.
really like that. She's very meticulous. She's like, I'm not committed. You do not have the full picture. And you see that throughout the entire series of what suspect. So they really do keep you guessing.
And it was interesting, right? She's like, I have things that I find interesting and people that I find interesting. Well, but I
Yeah,
think also that's that's an appropriate thing for the timeline, right? Because basically we're following her like in the just very few hours after this happens. Like they get 12 hours. I don't even know what time the guy was murdered, but she gets there at like 10 p.m. and she's out of the door at like 7 a.m. So like, should she have a suspect yet? I don't think so. Like, so I thought
just
that was
her dedication, because everyone else wanted one. They're like, "What about this guy?" And she's like, "No, I don't know. He was next to the body and covered in blood, but I'm just not sure yet. Like, I'm not positive at this moment if that's enough clues to really get us there." So I enjoyed that. So that was The Residence. It's on Netflix. It's a mystery, like we
yeah.
said, and it's streaming now. I'm Kaylin. That's Ansley. And we will see you in 2 weeks and hopefully not have any. The app was down. Ansley's running around. So hopefully be a little bit less crazy in two
Maybe
weeks.
somebody will actually be home to handle my dogs, or like my dogs won't be barking and everything. We're working on it.
And if you watch the show, leave a comment. We're gonna post these videos or this video up on our pages. So leave a comment and let us know what you thought of the show, your favorite character, and your favorite moment.
Can't wait to see what she says.
Bye.
And see you next time. Bye.